Mustard greens are a wonderful, tangy addition to any salad and are an easy crop to grow in the garden. But it does like to bolt quickly and go to seed. So if you plant your mustard greens at the wrong time, your greens can bolt, leaving you with nothing but seed stalks. Today I'd like to share with you the best time to plant your mustard in your garden and how to keep your mustard greens harvestable for a longer time. So let's get started with timing for each zone. There are 3 varieties that I like to grow: Mizuna, Ruby Streaks, and Golden Frills, and they pretty much all grow the same way. Alright, so in zones 9 and 10, mustard greens are going to grow for you in your garden from September until July. And we want to do small crops of mustard greens, so I would do about 30 seeds at a time. And you want to plant a fresh crop every 3 weeks during your growing window. And I would put in the first crop in late September after the summer heat has subsided. So once you start harvesting the second crop that you planted, you can then pull up the old crop. And the last crops of the season may or may not make it into the summer heat, but if you want to try mustard green crops for early summer, go ahead and plant them in a garden where it will get afternoon shade, or put a 40% shade cloth over your crop. You want to mulch the crop to keep the roots cooler. For those of you gardening in zones 7 and 8, you can plant your first crop of mustard greens in February as soon as you can work the soil. You're going to plant small crops of mustard greens. I would do 30 seeds at a time and plant a fresh crop every 3 weeks during your growing window. And your mustard greens will grow for you into July depending on the summer heat. The April and May mustard green crops that you plant, you can put them in a place that gets afternoon shade or grow it under a 40% shade cloth. So you're going to mulch the ground to keep the roots cooler. Then you can have a second crop of mustard greens in the fall. You can plant small batches of mustard greens every 3 weeks starting in September after the summer heat has subsided. And then with a few frost blankets over the tunnel, you could have mustard greens into December. So you want to keep planting every 3 weeks and see how far into the fall you can grow your mustard greens. So the key here is really to keep planting every 3 weeks. Now, for those of you gardening in zones 5 and 6, you can plant your first crop of mustard greens in your garden in late March, once the snow is melted and you can work the ground. So you want to use a frost blanket to protect your young mustard green plants from a hard frost. Plant a small new crop, about 30 seeds, every 3 weeks. So this is my zone, and I plant a new crop every 3 weeks, and I can grow mustard greens outside until December. So the key is to plant a new crop every 3 weeks, mulch the ground to keep the roots warm or cool, put the summer crops in an afternoon shady place, or use 40% shade cloth. Now in the fall, when it starts to freeze again, I use a low tunnel or cold frame and some frost blankets to protect the crop. Before we get to zones 3 and 4, I want to let you know that you can get some fresh mustard green seeds at a significant discount. You can get our Hardy Green Seed Kit. It has the mustard greens in it. When you get one of our Hardy Green Seed Kit, you will also have free access to our Seed Success Classroom. So there's a link in the description below so you can learn more about the seed kits and the Seed Success Classroom. Alright, for zones 3 and 4, you can start your first crop of mustard greens in late April or early May, as soon as you can work the soil. You want to use a frost blanket to protect your young mustard green plants from a hard frost. So plant a small new crop of 30 seeds every 3 weeks, and you can grow mustard outside until about November. Now it really depends on how the cold fronts come through, and the key is to plant a new crop every 3 weeks. Mulch the ground to keep the roots cool or warm. In the fall, when it starts to freeze again, use a low tunnel or a cold frame and some frost blankets to protect your crop. So before we get to the one trick that we do to keep the leaves tender, I'd like to invite you to check out our Hardy Greens e-course. So in this course, you can learn how to easily grow the 10 best hardy greens in your garden, including mustard greens. And if you are interested in learning more about this course, there's a link and a coupon code in the description below this video. Okay, the trick is to keep the leaves tender and the plants from bolting as fast is to grow the mustard greens under a 40% shade cloth all season long. So the shade cloth makes the leaves thinner, and this makes the leaves more tender, and the shade also keeps the mustard greens from bolting so fast.